We finally made it. NFL training camp is upon us, which means your Dynasty League mates are waking up. So today we have a very special solo edition of Trade Titans where I am going to only highlight trades with your 2027 picks included. We are going to have 10 trade examples for first-round picks, 10 trade examples for second-round picks, and 10 trade examples for third-round picks to cover all of the basis of if I am rebuilding or one-year punting, should I be getting these picks? If I am a contender, should I be sending away these picks? And are they really worth so much more like the market has been telling us? If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We are doing a roster review giveaway at 2,000 subscribers right around the corner. Make sure you're joined up in the Discord, link in the description for free so that you can join these mock drafts. We will be running for redraft and dynasty all the way up until season kickoff, and then roster help throughout the entire season entirely for free with an awesome community. Let's dive into the first few trades we got on screen here. Kicking right off here, we are starting with 27 second round picks. And second round picks are always interesting to me in general, as I find myself sending my second round picks away a lot more than most people. It's statistically because the hit rate is a lot lower in that second round, yet people still value them in a high regard. Third round picks I do see mostly being included as throw-ins in deals, but second round picks can be traded for legitimate players or get a tier up done when it matters most. The first trade you're seeing on screen today is a super interesting one. And as always, guys, the format for all of these trades is going to be a 12-team Superflex, tight end premium 1.5. I do seem to see that that is the most standard across the board these days, and it will apply to the most people. So take that all with a grain of salt. But first, we're talking about Matt Stafford. Coming off an MVP season, the Rams add more defensive firepower this offseason, which should increase their field positioning on each and every drive. Does that mean Matt Stafford can be what he was last year? I'm not entirely sure. That is a very difficult thing to replicate. However, I do think Matt Stafford is in a position to succeed here and probably give you at least another top 12 finish, with especially how loaded that Rams team is going into this season. I would hope that he is able to give you at least another year or two of production. And in fact, there was a conversation this offseason where Matt Stafford was talking, saying he consulted Drew Brees to see what it was like playing into his 40s, if he had what it took, how to take care of his body. I wouldn't be so surprised if Matt Stafford decides to go that route. Sean McVay, the Rams, they're clearly in win now mode. I think this is a no-brainer. If I'm anywhere near contending, I'm trading away my 27 second to bring in Matt Stafford in a Superflex format. I mean, you are getting a potentially 2-year starter here that is coming off an MVP season. And quite frankly, guys, if that 27 second is going to be on a contending roster, which I'm assuming it is if you're trading for a 38-year-old quarterback, then that's a late pick. And I would way rather just take my proven product. Let's talk about the next one, though. Jaylen Warren for a 27 second. I've talked about Jaylen Warren a lot recently on this channel, and there's a video that went up just last week, which you can go ahead and check out, where I talked about players that I think are undervalued in the dynasty market and have a good opportunity to deliver on their price tag this year. Jaylen Warren is one of them, okay? Very good with his hands last year. He caught 40 of 42 passes that came his way. He has been a factor in that Pittsburgh run game for a while, even though he's not been able to be the true alpha. And I know Rico Dowdle is in the building there. I expect Rico Dowdle to get just a solid amount of work as well. Probably about a 40% split going to Rico Dowdle. Hopefully closer to 50 to 55% going to Jaylen Warren. That all being considered, the real element that excites me with Jaylen Warren, if you're anywhere near running back needy, is the pass catching upside. Aaron Rodgers gave Kenneth Gainwell a league-leading targets to running backs last year. He is no longer on this team. I do think Jaylen Warren is a slightly better pass catcher than Rico Dowdle and will be used that way. For that reason, if I'm running back needy at all, this is also a no-brainer to me. I think Jaylen Warren, coming off at RB 16-17 finish last year, could finish in a very similar range, or at worst is really in that top 22-23 range, which I know isn't ideal if you're spending a second, but quite frankly, it's a higher percentage of hit rate than what you're getting in that late second round anyway. Let's talk about the next trade, which is actually a combo package trade, but we are using second round picks, so it qualified. And keep in mind, guys, these are all real trades that have been done in real dynasty leagues. Travis Etienne and 2 second round picks to go to Kenneth Walker. And quite frankly, when I saw this one, I thought this was a sell low on Kenneth Walker. I've seen him go as high as the 3rd round of dynasty startups recently. I think players in that range that you could swing on: George Pickens, Chris Olave, even maybe Tedero and McMillan, if you wanted to tier up from Kenneth Walker, isn't too much of a a swing like Kenneth Walker, and those 2 seconds probably get you to Tet. And that's a better question of how you want to construct your dynasty roster at the end of the day. All to be said, I'm taking the Walker side on this one. I do think Etienne is talented. He's given you 2 top 10 finishes on his rookie deal, which is more than what you can say for Kenneth Walker. This one is more of a gut on what I believe talent-wise. Yes, I'm a Seattle Seahawks fan, so you can say I'm biased as much as you want. I won't hide that. But Kenneth Walker is so explosive. I do think he was underutilized in Seattle, and I think that this is his chance to finally take a workhorse role on a high-powered offense with Patrick Mahomes and a ton of other offensive weapons there. I think it's wheels up for Kenneth Walker finally, and I would be doing this deal for Kenneth Walker. That is a good use of your second-round picks, in my opinion. You're also getting a bit younger from 27 to 25 here in the running back department, and as we know, age means a lot in Dynasty. Let's hop to the next trade, though, where you've got Malik Willis in a 27 second to move up and get a 27 first. Again, for me, this is a no-brainer. I'm taking that 27 first, and I'm running to the bank here. I know there's some people that are still believers in Malik Willis and think that he could potentially be a league winner this year with that rushing upside, but I really am getting Justin Field 2.0 vibes here. I don't think Malik Willis is going to make it through the full season. Miami has done very little in the wide receiving department to help give him any sort of boost, and that is an entire offense that I am mostly staying away from outside Devon Achane. But Malik Willis, if you can use him right now, you might honestly be just sending a second for a first-round pick, and Malik Willis this time next year is somewhat irrelevant or back in the backup department. Let's talk about this next trade, though, because this is a really interesting one. Chris Godwin, at the time of his injury, was wide receiver 2, okay? And I know we are 18 months plus removed from that time period, so it seems like very distant memory for us fantasy football folks, which very much play on recency bias. But quite frankly, again, guys, if you are a wide receiver needy team and you are looking at gearing up for a championship season, this is a price I'm fine paying. I do think Chris Godwin is going to be more involved in this Tampa Bay offense than a lot of people want to acknowledge. All the hype is around Emeka Egbuka, and rightfully so. He is the young, flashy product on the Dynasty market right now. But Chris Godwin is not nearly as old as people think he is. He's 29, going to be 30. This man can definitely get it done working in a slot capacity or some sort of Z around the line of scrimmage for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the next several years. I do not see a massive threat from guys like Ted Hurst, who are going to play on the outside, that was added this year. And I do like Jalen McMillan a lot, but quite frankly, I think there's enough to go around in this Tampa Bay system. I do think Chris Godwin could be the immediate winner of a lot of those targets. And quite frankly, I think Chris Godwin could surprise a lot of people this year. This is a fine trade for me. Now, if I am rebuilding, other side of the deal, totally fine, right? I think this is exact fair value here. If you are a Chris Godwin owner and you do not want to ride him into this season and you are looking at your team saying, I need some extra liquidity, you're not getting a first for this man. He's pressing 30. So I do think a second round pick is the best you're going to get. This is a totally fine trade on both sides. I will not say there's a clear winner or loser on this one. Let's go to the next one, though. The next trade we got here is an interesting one because, yes, the format we are evaluating these all from is a tight end premium format. And we're talking about Isaiah Likely, who got big money this offseason. Yes, he did sign a massive deal with the New York Giants to bring him in. Now, this is where I struggle with Isaiah Likely, guys. I feel like I've seen this movie before. Isaiah Likely finally has a chance to pop off. He is in New York, but he's back with Harbaugh. And we saw how Harbaugh used him last time. He used Mark Andrews and he used Isaiah Likely as a pass catching option. Now you've got Theo Johnson and you've got also Isaiah Likely. Are we in store for the exact same level of usage? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe this is the true breakout and I'm lower on him than consensus. Personally, I think this is a fine dart throw to swing because, like I said before, guys, those second round picks hit rates are a hell of a lot lower than you might think. And you could say what you want about this 27 class and that it's generational and that these guys are all going to be good. Statistically, that is not going to be possible for fantasy football. You cannot have 2 full rounds of rookies that are going to be impact players in fantasy. It just will not happen. So even if the hit rate is a tiny bit higher on these 27 second round picks, we need to stay grounded in reality here. I do not think that Isaiah Likely is by any means an ultimate league winner. I think that he's probably a guy that could give you a top 12 finish this year. I don't see a top 6 or 7 finish coming from the Isaiah Likely camp. That all being said, this is a fair trade. right? I just talked about the low hit rate on second round picks. You can't expect the farm from a second round pick anyway, and you probably have just as much likelihood taking a swing on Isaiah here and hoping things pan out in New York with Jackson Dart. I think this is a fair trade for both sides. I'm not paying a first for likely, but I'm also not giving him up for anything less than a second. Let's call this one dead even. Let's go to the next one, though, where we've got Bashal Tutin. A lot of people are super high on him. I am not one of those people that is super high on him. You guys probably know that already from watching my channel. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We've got a ton of awesome stuff coming for you guys this season with tons of special guests coming on Trade Titans in the next few weeks to really ramp up and zone in for the season. But Bashal Tutin, this is a fair price, okay? I am not in the camp of paying a first for Tutin. I know a lot of people are. You will not catch me doing it. But a second round pick, again, like I said, those hit rates are super, super low. And a lot of people do not want to acknowledge it. But I find myself sending second round picks away left and right. Now, while I'm not a big Tutin fan, this is for sure an easy price of admission for me to ride that lottery and hope things pan out. I will go ahead and do this one and say the Tutin side is a pretty clear winner here. I do think that getting a chance at a starting running back, albeit maybe in a committee, I think is worth the price of admission. Let's dive into trade number 8 of 10 for your second round picks here. Blake Corum, no. The answer is going to be no. And the answer is going to be no because unless you are the Kyren Williams owner and you are an ultimate contender, and Kyren is the key to winning the championship for you, you are weak at running back and you need depth. Fine. I will let you do this trade. If not, I do not see the upside here. I know a lot of people have started rambling lately that Kyren Williams, they have an out next year on his contract. He's 25 years old, guys. Blake Corum and Kyren Williams, they're the same age. And Blake Corum is on his rookie deal still. You tell me dynasty value-wise, as a case study, how many dynasty running backs have gone into their second contract at age 28 and delivered on the value you invested in them? It's going to be 0, guys. It's going to be 0. And that is what you are on with Blake Corum here, okay? That is where you're at. He is already 25 and a half years old. I do not see his value rising high enough before that second contract that you are going to get a meaningful return. Whether or not he is slightly productive for you in the meantime in a touch split in Los Angeles, barring some major injury, is one thing. But investing this sort of draft capital when you have better options to use these second round picks for, some we've highlighted already, some we will talk about still to come, I would just be holding this pick, using it more effectively during the season when I need to, rather than taking Corum, unless you are the ultimate Kyren owner. And like I mentioned before, we're struggling for running back depth. That is your only hall pass on this one. Let's go to the next trade. This is Shedeur Sanders for a 27-second. I am okay doing this deal. I don't feel good about this deal. I do worry that Sanders is never going to get to the range where people will pay a first-round pick for him, whether it's the skepticism on how he came into the league, whether it's been the Browns' inability to commit to him, whether people are just going to say it's the Cleveland Browns and just chalk it up that every year they're going to take a new quarterback because they are not a good run organization, which is true. I think I'm taking the second here. I think I'm taking the second because I think it does more for me. And so at the end of the day, this is probably fair value. Like, I don't think you should be sending Shedeur away for a third. In fact, I wouldn't do that because still, at the end of the day, you probably get some starting upside with Shedeur this year. That all being said, though, this is probably a win for the second round pick. I think more people in your league are going to be interested in the second round pick, especially in this 27 class over the course of the season. Gives you more buying power, but that one is just me, not necessarily a huge Sanders believer. Let's go to the last trade of this 27 second round pick conversation, okay? And the last trade we have here is Josh Downs and a 27 second for Cam Skattebo. And guys, I'm all in on Cam Scat this year. You've heard me talk about it left and right. There is very few running backs in the league that offer you the ability to not only have a goal line role, but also make a difference in the passing game. Cam Skattebo is one of those guys. He has caught a lot of passes in a very minimal amount of time last season. Only played 7 games, still boasted almost 17 points per game in a PPR format. Josh Downs, he's shown flashes. I do expect this to be a better year for Josh Downs, but quite frankly, I think this is a no-brainer to get a running back. Running backs are difficult to buy in the dynasty market, and while I like Josh Downs, I think Josh Downs is replaceable. I think the production level you're about to get from Josh Downs could be bought in either a veteran that is cheaper, like a Godwin we talked about earlier, Evans, Devontae Adams. I mean, those guys will all probably outscore Josh Downs by a pretty significant margin. You could make the case they're one-year rentals. They don't have the same level of dynasty value. All to be said, these 27 seconds, I know they're worth a lot. I'd rather have the running back. All right, you sickos, we're probably diving into the part of the video where most people are interested. What are your 27 first-round picks worth? And yes, we have 10 examples of real dynasty trades for 27 first-round picks or that involve 27 first-round picks. I am going to tell you my stance and opinion on all of them and if you should be doing them if it fits the blueprint of your team. We are starting here. Again, it is Superflex with Cam Ward, and a lot of people are excited about Cam Ward taking that next step going into his second year here. He does get Brian Dable added to the offense. I think that's going to be a good thing for him. The real question with Cam Ward is, can he build off the productive performances last year and not trickle back into turning the ball over, getting skittish, making some poor decisions? That is where we are going to find Cam Ward coming into his second year. However, adding Carnell Tate in the draft and Wan'Dale Robinson in free agency, I do think bode well for him. Gunnar Helm is on the rise, a guy who is definitely going to be relevant in tight end premium over the years in Dynasty, so not a bad stash for you there as well. But 27 first and 2/3 for Cam Ward. I think I'm taking the Ward side pretty comfortably here. I say this in Dynasty all the time. I don't want to be the guy that continuously takes the bird in the hand, throws it away, and tries to get something better. The grass is not always greener, as DK Metcalf so painfully found out this last year, leaving the Seattle Seahawks only to miss out on a Super Bowl ring. Yeah, I had to throw that shot in there. But you've got Cam Ward, who definitely has the upside to take a step this next year. I do think that that's in the cards for him. And I do think that this 27 class, regardless of how many quarterback prospects there are in that class that you like, you're still playing with the house's money here. You have a quarterback that went number 1 overall in the NFL draft in your back pocket. Why are you trying to re-roll in next year's class and hope you get something better? Plus a couple of thirds, which aren't enough to sweeten the pot for me. I do believe if this was maybe a few seconds, I could understand taking this deal because it might have more buying power for you on the open market. But this one, I'm going to go ahead and stick with the Cam Ward side and not get greedy. Let's dive into the next trade, though, because this one is a controversial one. We've got Devon Achane on the left side with the 27 first-round pick. And on the right side, you got Jahmyr Gibbs. And I can understand from a start 11 or start 12 format taking the Achane side here, especially if you're in a deeper league saying, hey, I need as many starters as I can get that are going to give me premium production. I'm with you. I understand that. However, if you are in more of a shallow format, anything start 10 or below, it's the Jahmyr Gibbs side by a pretty significant margin for me. I do think Gibbs is going to be that ultimate alpha, the guy that could be an ultimate game winner every single week, 55-point performances left and right. Now, Devon Achane. He is in a tougher situation, mainly because that Miami offense is going to be playing from behind often. I do not think Malik Willis is going to check the ball down nearly as much as Tua, who did it on a historically high rate. All to be said, I'm going to take the Jahmyr Gibbs side here and not think too much about this one. One caveat I will add to this trade. If you are a rebuilder and you are looking to tear off Gibbs and you play in a league economy that allows for a lot of trading, meaning you have other managers that are willing to pay up and give you market prices for your players and not just lowball you, then if you take Jahmyr Gibbs and tear off him and get Devon Achane in a 27 first, and then continue to walk that process down. And when I say walk that process down, I'm talking about, okay, Devon Achane is a second-round player. Can I move down to a third-round startup pick player, get another first coming back to me, and continue to do so, right? So can I move off Devon Achane and get George Pickens in a first? Can I move off George Pickens and get Zay Flowers in a first, even if I have to include a third on the George Pickens side? Then can I move off Zay Flowers down even further to a Wan'Dale Robinson and get Wan'Dale Robinson in a first for Zay Flowers in a third? I mean, this is the type of deals that I actually like making, because now you've suddenly printed 4 or 5 firsts off Jahmyr Gibbs, which you would not have gotten initially, right? And so that is the only caveat I will give you. That is a very hard process to walk. Everyone in your league is going to have to play ball for you to be able to get that done, and that is difficult in itself. But I did want to throw it out there because I do think it's an important conversation to have in Dynasty. I've done something similar in the past. and it did work out really well for me where I got way more in return for that player than I would have by just doing a one-off sale. That all being considered, let's talk about the next trade. We are talking about Travion Henderson, Marvin Harrison Jr., and a 27 first for Jeremiah Love. And guys, I don't think people are going to like my answer on this one. I am very high on Jeremiah Love. Don't get me wrong. I think I'm going to take the left side here. And I know it is very risky. It's very risky, but I do think the left side package might buy me something I like better than Jeremiah Love if either of those two players have a very good start to the season, and I'm willing to take that risk. Although I'm not a fan of doing this deal if you are playing with the house's money, meaning your team's already loaded, you don't need to, take the risk here, but if you have Jeremiah Love, you probably had the 101, right? And if you have the 101 and you are taking shots and you are trying to rebuild this roster, it is a lot more likely, especially if you're in a start 10 or start 11 format, that you are getting a better outcome on the left side from a rebuilding standpoint by giving yourself more shots than just taking the player on the right. And this could definitely age poorly, right? If Jeremiah Love does come out and gets to the level of Bijan or Gibbs or even a Devon Achane, then it's going to probably hurt and sting a little bit. But that also depends on where this 27 first ends up. If this ends up being a top 4, top 5 pick, probably all becomes very even by the end of the day, if not a solid win for the left side, if Travion or Marvin actually do return on their potential capital from last year. That being said, if I'm a contender, I'll hold Love and just ride it out. If I am near rebuilding, give yourself as many shots as you can. I do think splitting a player for 3 is a good option here. The one thing I will finally add here, though, is that if I am trading Jeremiah Love, I'm probably not doing it for 2 of the riskiest players in Dynasty right now, including another first, which is a dice roll. I'm probably trying to structure that trade a lot more significantly and get a guy that I think is proven included in the package, as well as some risk and some liquidity, right? And so I think a better package that would look like there is Garrett Wilson, a first, and Cam Skadaboo. Or Garrett Wilson, a first, and maybe you can't get a level of Cam Skadaboo. Maybe you got to go down a bit to try a swing on Tootin. I get that. I'm not telling you to buy a Tootin. I'm just saying that is probably a better package from the sense of, at the bare minimum, I'm getting 125, 140 plus targets out of Garrett Wilson that I know is coming his way, regardless who's playing quarterback in New York. And then I'm still getting the upside swing of liquidity. That's more my thought process on that. Let's talk about the next trade, though, because we've got Rashee Rice for a 27 first. Not going to spend too much time on this one. I think if you're an ultimate contender and you don't need, really to worry too much about the future right now because you've built your team really well, fine. Use Rashee Rice this year. He's probably going to get you 18, 19 points per game. I'm not hiding that fact at all. I will say, I don't see a long-term future for Rashee Rice in Kansas City. He's caused them too much trouble and is consistently in the headlines. I don't trust him to stay behaved this next offseason, and he's playing in a contract year, which is basically zero stability from a dynasty standpoint. There is a non-zero chance that Rashee Rice is not even in the league next year. I hate dealing with those kind of players, and there's no space for them on my roster. If you are not an ultimate contender, I'm taking this pick. I'm taking this pick comfortably. I want Rashee Rice off my roster, and that's all I'm going to say about it. The next one we're going to go into is Chig Okonkwo and a 27 first for Parker Washington and Kyle Pitts. Now, this was an interesting deal because Kyle Pitts last year did finish as tight end 2, but Kyle Pitts also was highly inflated by a 50-point performance that came damn near at the end of the fantasy football season, and that inflated his finish. He was not on course to be your tight end 2 in a points per game model throughout the entire season, but does ink a new deal in Atlanta. Now he has that contract stability. Parker Washington showed you a nice breakout at the end of last year. Chig, everyone expects to take a step forward, but we haven't seen it yet in a 27 first in a vacuum. Guys, knowing that this is a tight end premium, I will be taking the Pitt side here. I do think that Parker Washington is a guy I'm way more excited about than Chig, even in a tight end premium. And I do think Kyle Pitts is worth a 27 first if you play in a tight end premium. When we talk about positional difference makers, this is still a guy who is wildly young, has given you 1,000-yard seasons. This is a guy that could be a league winner in the tight end department in a positional difference maker. I know that term gets thrown around a lot these days, but Kyle Pitts is probably one of the few with his level of athleticism and pass catching upside that offers that at the tight end position. I will take the Pitts side of this deal, but I will say 27 first, I kind of like buying a little bit more notable players than Parker Washington and Kyle Pitts. The value's fair. Probably not the trade that I would do, but I don't think it's a bad deal. Let's go ahead and look at the next one, though. And this is a deal I would do if I'm on any sort of contending roster. In fact, I've done it myself this offseason multiple times. Sending my 27 first that I think is going to be late for Saquon Barkley. I do think Saquon Barkley comes back, bounce back year this year. I do expect him to be wildly fantasy relevant. I hope he stays healthy and the Philadelphia Eagles can find their form again after moving on from the offensive coordinator woes of last season. That all being said, if you are a rebuilder, I probably want more for Barkley. I'm just going to wait until the season starts. I think after Saquon has his first 20-plus point performance, you will get more than just a single first. You might even be able to milk a second-round pick on top of it, or you can go ahead and roll it into a younger receiving asset that might hold some decent value on your Dynasty roster for the long term. I'm thinking maybe a Rome Odunze plus. That would be exciting. Let's talk about the next one, though, because we've got Jordan Mason and a first for Baker Mayfield and Jalen McMillan. And I did really want to include this one because I think people are too low on Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield had a down year last year, but the previous year, everyone was willing to send the farm for Baker. He really looked like he had put it together in Tampa. I actually really like Jalen McMillan as well. I do think Jalen McMillan is going to be a relevant fantasy player for the long haul. He is very talented, suffered that brutal neck injury last year, which really kept him sidelined, and then definitely playing probably a little bit more timid coming off an injury that, by all reports, almost paralyzed the man. So I'm going to go ahead and give Jalen McMillan the benefit of the doubt and say last year was not the best Jalen McMillan we've seen, but what we did see out of Jalen McMillan was over 17.5 points per game for a 5-game stretch at the end of 2024, which is wild. If his name was Burden, you guys would be paying multiple first-round picks for him, but it isn't, so you're not willing to do so. Jalen McMillan, great player. I do think he's going to have some fantasy relevance coming in the future. I'll take the right side of this one. Buying a quarterback in Superflex is always difficult. I do think Baker's going to get extended soon, and that's really going to help his dynasty value. And Jordan Mason, I think he was more of a flash in the pan than anything. Everything that you could have wanted to happen with Jordan Mason last year did happen. Aaron Jones got injured. The quarterback got injured. They needed to lean on the run game. Didn't happen for him. So I'm out on Jordan Mason. He's going into a contract year anyway. I'm not willing to take that risk and don't think he adds anything significant to this package. Let's talk about the next trade. Jameson Williams and a 27 first for Brock Purdy and Demond Claiborne. This one is the Purdy side. Pretty comfortably for me. Okay, I actually like the throw-in of Demond Claiborne. I just got done talking about how Aaron Jones is an old man and Jordan Mason is in the last year of his contract. When you talk about rookie dart throws, this is a dart throw that actually might hit. I mean, Demond Claiborne, he definitely needs to polish up some of his vision and his understanding to be able to hit the gap correctly, but he does have some pace behind him. He could have big play upside. I do like taking swings on later round running backs, especially if they land in the right position and situation team-wise. Jameson Williams, a lot better in best ball than real dynasty drafts, as this man is a bit volatile when it comes in the scoring department. Normally pretty boom or bust. That being considered, I do think he'll be a little bit more boom than bust this year. The Detroit Lions do have one of the easiest strength of schedules out there, but again, I'm taking Brock Purdy over that 27 first-round pick in a vacuum, and so I do think Jameson Williams, decent upside here, not enough to get me to Brock Purdy. I would be taking the quarterback, and the Claiborne throw-in is a nice throw-in piece. I love structuring my trades with a little throw-in. As we look at this next one for what your 27 first-round picks are worth, we got Alec Pierce and a 27 first moving for Tucker Kraft and Michael Pittman. And again, guys, I'm smashing the right side of this deal. I think a 27 first alone for Tucker Kraft is a steal, is a absolute steal in a tight end premium. I think Tucker Kraft is potentially George Kittle light, about to give you maybe 4 to 6 top 10 finishes at the position before it's all said and done. I loved what I saw out of Tucker Kraft before the injury. I do think he is the alpha in that Green Bay room. I do not think Christian Watson is for the long term there. His health has already caused issues. Jaden Reed has had his own health constraints and is definitely not an alpha wide receiver. Matthew Golden, I'm going to end it there. Nothing really huge on Matthew Golden. I don't expect a breakout from him. It's Tucker Kraft's wide receiving room. And Michael Pittman is a guy that I consistently glaze on this channel, and for good reason. 4 top 20 finishes in the last 5 years. The only one he missed was with Anthony Richardson throwing him the ball, and Pittman had a broken back for half the season and was being used as a decoy. Now, Alec Pierce on the other side should take over a lot of those vacated Michael Pittman targets. However, I don't know if I believe in Alec Pierce to be an ultimate volume king, as we've only seen him get it done deep downfield so far. Not saying he can't do it, just that I haven't seen him do it. And so at the end of the day, I am going to go ahead and take the Tucker Kraft side here. Even if it was a first in Pierce for Tucker Kraft, I'd be considering it. And the Pittman side pushes me over the edge because I think there's a very good chance that Michael Pittman outscores Alec Pierce this year and is only a couple years older than him. So that's an easy one for me. Let's dive into the last trade here for your 27 first-round picks. And then I've got the third-round picks for you diehard that I'll blow through. But I know a lot of you guys are not going to stick around for that. So that's all right. This one is a guy in CeeDee Lamb that I do think has been widely not discussed this offseason. He is one of the most silent alpha wide receivers in the Dynasty market right now. Like, everyone knows of his existence. Everyone respects his existence and what he's done in the past. But I don't know if we're talking about him as like a league winner, as a guy that if he's on your team, you are set to go for the future, because there's been so many other distracting names this offseason. CeeDee Lamb is still that guy. He's still 27 years old. He's entering the prime of his career. I do think a couple years ago, coming off some top finishes, if not wide receiver 1 overall finish for CeeDee Lamb, and as how he was projected to be that last season as well, you were not buying him for anything less than 3 firsts. Now you're down to 2 firsts because one of them includes a 27 in front of it. I still think this is a no-brainer for CeeDee Lamb. Like, if I'm anywhere near contending, give me one of the ultimate alphas entering the prime of his career. The Cowboys love to air the ball out. I do think Dak, if he stays healthy, also gives you top 10 upside and is going to utilize Pickens and Lamb plenty. There's a lot of targets to go around in that offense. This is, again, a no-brainer for me. If I'm rebuilding, I understand taking the 2 firsts in a second. It might be the best you're going to get for Lamb at his current market value without seeing anything else from the field. And if you don't want to take a risk on him getting injured or Pickens really breaking out like crazy this year, I could see taking this deal. But overall, I think you could get more for CeeDee Lamb if you just wait until he's scoring top-tier points for you again. All right, diehards, if you stick around, I appreciate you. Make sure you hop in the Discord if you haven't already, because I know you diehards that are sticking around for third-round pick talk want to be talking Dynasty trades all day, every day, and getting roster advice in the Discord entirely for free. The link is in the description to join. But first, we've got Greg Dulcich, the tight end in Miami. He might be the top pass-catching option for Miami this year. There's already been some chatter about that in training camp. That all being considered, I do think if I'm not an ultimate contender that really needs to take a swing at tight end, I'm just holding my third and spending it elsewhere. It's because I'm not excited about that Miami offense overall. But this could be a very good Band-Aid. Like, if you are really an ultimate contender, and let's say your top tight end right now is a Dalton Schultz or a Mark Andrews, and you're feeling a little bit risky in that department, this is probably the fair price to swing on Dulcich. So again, I've given you both sides of the fence. This is fair value. I'd probably lean the third in a vacuum because I'd hope I could spend it elsewhere. But if you're contending and you need the depth, this is a fair price. Let's talk about the next one, Trey Harris. I'm going to go ahead and re-roll and take the third here. I don't think Trey Harris is a bad prospect. In fact, I really liked him last year. I just think the unfortunate side of the Mike McDaniel signing is that you have too many mouths to feed in that offense. And while you might get flashes from some here and there, I think Ladd's going to eat the majority of that. He has big plans for Quentin Johnston in that offense. You've got Gadsden, you've got Njoku, you've got, Keandre Lambert-Smith even hanging around there. All to be shown, does Keenan Allen come in and screw up all of our plans again right at the end of training camp? We don't know. Trey Harris is a guy that I think is a way better real-life NFL player than he is ever going to be in the fantasy department for you. For that reason, I think I'm going to take my third in a vacuum, try to shop it to a rebuilder midseason. Maybe that gets me my handcuff running back or something more important down the line. Let's talk about the next one, though. Cyrus Allen, who I've actually been talking about a little bit recently. I do think I already mentioned earlier in this video, not my favorite thing in the Kansas City offense is Rashee Rice. I don't think he's going to be around for the long haul. That all being said, Cyrus Allen is one of those really deep sleepers that you could get probably off waivers in most of your Dynasty leagues. I've been getting him off waivers left and right and just stashing him because outside Xavier Worthy, that depth chart in Kansas City is looking quite thin. Now, that all being considered, I just gave you the Cyrus Allen ramble. I'm taking Terrence Ferguson very comfortably here. I was very high on Terrence Ferguson last year coming out of Oregon. I stand by that analysis. I think he's a hell of a lot better than what he showed in his rookie year. I do think a lot of those big chunk plays that were actually delivered during the season got called back because of holding penalties or false starts or whatever you might want to call them. I watched multiple times the Terrence Ferguson calls go the wrong way and wipe fantasy points off the board. I think if some of those had stuck, you'd have a lot more people talking about him. And I also think the Rams not taking Mekhi Lemon in the draft and opting to go still with Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams as their alpha 2, and then kind of play a lot more tight end packages last year. We saw a lot more use of heavy personnel. I think Terrence Ferguson has the option to kind of be that pseudo wide receiver 3 for the Los Angeles Rams this year. If we're so excited about the Rams and every other piece they have, why are you not excited about their potential wide receiver 3 or top potential tight end target here? I'm all in on Terrence Ferguson. I think this might be your last chance to buy him. I'm comfortably paying this package in a tight end premium. I might even go as high as a second round pick, maybe not in 2027, just based off of the entirety of what that market is showing us that you can get for a 27 second, like we highlighted in some of those other trades. But a 28 second for Terrence Ferguson in a premium, I'm going to go ahead and do that one any day of the week as well. Let's talk about this next trade. Chuba Hubbard for Jordan James and a 27 third. I'm going to take the Hubbard side here. Jordan James, I know, is getting a little bit of camp hype here and a little bit of Shanahan recognition. Might be the backup to Christian McCaffrey, who coming off a 400-plus touch season could be on his way to having some injury trouble this year. I understand the worries. That all being said, I know we like Jonathan Brooks, some of us more than others, mainly you guys more than me. All to be said, Chuba still does profile to at least get the majority of the starting snaps to start the season. I do think there'll be a sell window on Chuba in the first 4 weeks as well, even if you are a long-term Jonathan Brooks believer, and I think you can get a hell of a lot more than a third-round pick for him. So let's move on to the next trade. Kenny Gainwell for a third. I was shocked to see this one go through. I do think Kenneth Gainwell is worth a lot more than this. I know he's 26. I know he had a late breakout. I know he's mainly talked about as inflated because of the Aaron Rodgers dump-off usage last year. All probably valid, very valid. But that being considered, I'm a lot lower on Bucky than most. I think Gainwell's going to have a role in this offense. If anything does happen to Bucky in the injury department again, then you're looking at Kenny Gainwell and Sean Tucker, and I think Kenny Gainwell is a clear better option there. So give me Gainwell here very comfortably. Again, I think this is a guy that you can make a case for spending a second-round pick on if you're running back needy and starting to bolster that depth. Let's talk about the next trade, though. If you know me well, you saw this next trade hit the screen, and Stan's going to be jazzed up to talk about it. I love Antonio Williams. When I talk about taking swings on rookies in your second round of your rookie draft, where the probability is statistically very low, like I mentioned before, I love looking at opportunity, and opportunity is there for Antonio Williams. Terry McLaurin, yes, the alpha in that offense, but over 30 years old and not a lot of depth behind him. There might be some Stephon Diggs addition down the line here. I know there's chatter of it. I'm still not very worried about Antonio Williams from a dynasty perspective if that happens. He gets to learn under 2 potential long-term alphas. Diggs obviously making his mark consistently over the last 10 years. And then you've got Terry McLaurin, who has been the definition of consistent in that wide receiver department over the last decade. I love the upside here of a potential long-term wide receiver 2 attached to a premium quarterback in Jaden Daniels. And then you got Denzel Boston, who quietly could be the alpha in Cleveland. Now, I know that's a weird phrase to say, as I don't think the Cleveland offense can support any true alphas in its current state, but I actually think Boston could profile as a better option than KC over the long haul. He does have that big play upside. I know a lot of people like to knock his 40 time, but people forget at University of Washington, this man returned kicks. You do not put the slow guys back to return kicks. Denzel Boston has explosiveness. He's got shiftiness. He's got everything you need to be an upside NFL wide receiver. And this is a guy that's going very cheap for you. So Matthew Golden or Denzel Boston, I'm leaning Boston by a mile, a second and a third for Antonio Williams. If you want to break it down like this, I'm also fine taking the swing on Williams. I know it's not popular. Those 27 seconds are worth a lot more, but all to be said, I think however you want to break this math down, Golden in a third for Boston, I'm still taking Boston. Then you've got a second for Williams straight up. All being said, this is a no-brainer for me. Do the math however way you like it. I want the Boston side here comfortably. I'm not in on Matthew Golden this year. Let's talk about Brenton Strange, though, a guy who has definitely been getting some offseason hype, and a lot of people were really expecting to take a jump last year. Unfortunately, it didn't really happen due to mostly injury, but we are in a premium here. Brenton Strange in a third for DeAndre Swift. I'm going to save you guys some time and some headache and some ramble for me. It's going to be the Swift side here. Swift, RB 15 to 21 through his entire time in the league, has never finished lower than that, has never finished higher than the 15. All to be said, That's consistent. I know what I'm buying here. I'm buying an upside RB2 on any given week. And with Brenton Strange potentially making that jump, will he, won't he? There's a lot of mouths to feed in Jacksonville. Travis Hunter, regardless if he plays defense or not, is going to see some offensive action. Parker Washington, Brian Thomas Jr., Jacoby Myers recently extended. I know Strange is exciting. I don't think there's enough volume for him to ever be a true alpha. That's why I'll just take my running back depth. Running backs are going to be hard to buy when the injuries start coming this year. Let's talk about Josh Downs, Brian Thomas Jr. for a 27 first and third. And yes, this is a blended trade. It has a third though, so it does count. If you stuck around, you get an extra 27 first example. That's what you get for sticking around, okay? But these are two guys. We already talked about Downs a little bit. Let's talk about Brian Thomas Jr. I'm fine paying a 27 first in a vacuum for Brian Thomas Jr. I do think that's probably what he's worth. Now, all being considered, I just mentioned how many mouths are to feed in that offense. I could see you getting hurt by Brian Thomas Jr. again this year. I will hope that what he showed his rookie year, he's able to build on with Trevor Lawrence now after having a full offseason with way less distractions. There was some, personal stuff going on for Brian Thomas Jr. last year as well that obviously was probably weighing pretty heavy on his mind. I hope he's able to shed some of that. I think that this is a clear and obvious example that I'm going to be taking the swing on Brian Thomas Jr. on this one. I do think it's a fair cost, and I do think this is probably, all being said and done, a cheap acquisition on Josh Downs, seeing that you're probably bridging the gap of Brian Thomas might be worth a first, but I'll give you a third, and you include Josh Downs. I think you got more than you bargained for there. I like the right side here. Let's talk about this second to last trade, though, and that is Davante Adams for a 27 third and a 27 second. Yep, I did it again. I tricked you guys. There you go. You got a 27 second in here. I like the Davante Adams side here if I'm contending. I think if I'm rebuilding, I will take the second and third. Very fair value. Don't think Davante Adams is worth a first at his age, but I do think he's going to be productive again. All being said, I'll quit dragging this one on. This is a fair trade. Both sides came away with what they bargained for, depending on your team build. Let's talk about the last one. We've got Travis Kelce and a 27 third for a 27 second. And this is as quick of a no-brainer as I've ever seen. Give me the Travis Kelce side. Everyone thinks Travis Kelce was on the downturn last year. He still gave you a top 5 finish at the position. He comes back in an offense with limited pass-catching options outside of Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. I do think this is the revenge tour for the Kansas City Chiefs. They finally add Kenneth Walker to give them a sustainable run game so they don't have to lean as much on the passing game. Does that open more opportunities for Travis Kelce not being as double-teamed or as sought after as usual, because now they have to worry about those stacked boxes and Kenneth Walker potentially even being a pass catching option out of the backfield? All to be said, I love the Kelce upside here as a 1 year rental. I think he's about as good as it gets in a tight end premium. Even if you got to flex him this year, I love buying Travis Kelce for the cheap price of a 27 third round pick or doing a pick swap like you are seeing on screen. And that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for the continued support on this channel and riding with me all Dynasty offseason. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button. Make sure you like the video. Leave in the comments some trades you made this Dynasty offseason. I love to go through and see what you guys are up to. Make sure you join that Discord. The link is in the description for free, as we are going to be running a ton of mock drafts and other incredible Dynasty roster rescue sessions in the Discord before the season kicks off so that we can get you guys in tip-top shape to take on your league mates this year. I will see you on Thursday for the next video and on Friday for the Dynasty Market Report as we gear back up towards the season. Thank you guys again. I'll see you in the next one.